Hello, everyone, and we have another week, another weekly market recap. I hope that we're going live. I see the stream has an excellent connection. So, unlike last week, we should be actually live on time with no issues this time. Please let me know in the chat if everything is working correctly, if you can see us, if you can hear us. And we will get started with recapping the trading week in just a few minutes. In the meantime, if you're new to this stream, let me introduce you to my co-hosts. To my left-hand side is Bruno Perinelli, our mentor and analyst from Argentina. Welcome on the show, Bruno. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Oliver. Welcome. I'm doing quite good. How are you doing?
Pretty well. Actually, the weather has been really nice here in Slovakia, so excited for that. And to my right-hand
Excellent.
side, we have Jake Torres, our mentor and financial analyst from the Philippines. Welcome on the show, Jake.
Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show.
How's your week going so far? How are you doing?
Everything is great so far.
Hello, Andy Boy. Hello, guys in the chat. Great to see you here. And I think we can actually get started. So, as every week, the first thing that we have to get to is recapping what were the most important events of the previous one. So, Bruno, can you take us through what has been happening in the European and the American markets over the previous week?
Okay, yeah. In the US, we got the Federal Reserve hiking the interest rate by 25 basis points to the range between 5 and 5.25% and hinted the end of rate hikes. The Fed is also worried about how the aggressive monetary policy will affect economic activity, hiring, and inflation. Also, some risk of behavior was caused by fresh concerns about the US regional banks that are on the brink to collapse. And in Europe, we got the European Central Bank lifting the rate by 25 basis points. Christine Lagarde, the chair of the ECB, is committed to raising interest rates to fight inflation despite the deceleration in prices that have taken place during last month. And after last week's big drop, we got the Japanese yen outperforming after the BOJ's dovish statement. And among the European currencies, we got the Swiss franc ahead outperforming ahead of the meeting of the Swiss National Bank in June.
Thank you very much, Bruno. So that has been the events of the European and American markets. You have mentioned retail banks possibly going under. Is that something that traders should be careful about? Is that something where they could find opportunities? What's your view on it?
I mean, most of the traders are forex traders here, so I would follow the news in case there are good or bad news, and if what are the causes or the consequences of those news. I mean, if that causes a risk on sentiment and we go long on the let's say the dollar yen, or we go short in case of a risk of sentiment rising because of these concerns. So I would
So
have
basically,
an
if we get
ear of
bad news
opportunities.
about the
Yeah,
banks,
yeah.
what could that mean for the American dollar?
I mean, that could drive the investors out of risk assets and go back to bonds. That would press the bond yields down, and that would discourage the demand for the US dollar. And I would I would short in that case the dollar and go back to the yen, go long yen, short dollar, just to have a risk of short.
Thank you very much. Jake, what have we seen in the Asian markets over the previous weeks? What were the most important events?
We had the RBA, the cash rate or interest rate decision, which the actual print is higher than the expected from the market. So the expectation was they will be hiking by no, they will hold their current rate, but it turns out that they hike, and it was a surprise. And we saw an immediate strength from the AUD at the back of that surprise release. If we go to the AUD NZD pair, so it is very apparent that this pair, after the release, it gained strength, gaining 110 pips. But after that, it was also the time that this another negative update from the regional bank in the US, which creates a risk-off environment in the market, and we see an immediate price reversal from the AUD because in the forex market, AUD is the most affected currency when it is risk-off tone. So all the gains from the Australian dollar at the back of the surprise hike was taken out completely at the end of the trading day because of the negative news from the regional bank in the US. And another one is the New Zealand employment rate. It was not really a big surprise with regards to its actual print, but still, it supported the NZD versus the New Zealand versus the Australian dollar because even though it is not a very surprise print, but it was positive versus the expectation from the market.
Is there anything else that that was of high importance this week?
Um, Based on the economic event that is the most important thing. Before I forget, also we have the inflation rate today from the Swiss franc, and on the monthly inflation rate, the release is it is more of a negative print. It is below market expectation, below forecast, and that is why today we can see actually it is the leading the pack to the downside for the CHF currency right now. And this may be one of the bases or barometers from the Swiss National Bank with regards to their next step on their incoming interest rate decision meeting. Because prior to this inflation, the numbers from the CPI from Switzerland was positive, and that is the start of it is now turning into negative inflation rate.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Guys, what are the most exciting opportunities that we could be looking forward to in the next week? What is awaiting us, and where do you see the possibility for traders to have some opportunities to make some profits?
Well, next week we have the BOE, the Bank of England's interest rate decision. The pound is getting really strong lately. In the last 2 months, I think it went around 9 to 10% up. That's quite a lot for just a foreign currency, and I think the JPY, the Japanese yen, could be something to put an eye on because the risk on risk off sentiment it will probably drive the markets, the financial markets in general. So I would place an eye on both currencies.
Thank you, Bruno. Jake, what is your opinion? Where do you see the opportunities for the upcoming week?
For the based on the Asian session, as far as the economic calendar is concerned, we have no scheduled economic release, a major economic release, and we can, of course, incorporate the sentiment analysis because most of the time when there is no economic event, what drives the price action is more on the sentiment. And when we do a sentiment analysis, we can look at the AUD yen, AUD versus the yen currency, and we could also look at the VIX, which is if it is a higher VIX, that is risk off, and lower VIX, that is risk on. And aside from that, we have to be mindful that this banking issue is still around the corner because just this week it surprised the market. It produced a risk off. So we have to be mindful of that also.
Let me add some things. Next week, we have the CPI in the United States. Headline inflation is expected to have accelerated, not the core inflation. So ahead of this specific number, the USD, the US dollar, will be in focus. So something to place an eye on, apart from the Great British Pound and the Japanese yen, as I mentioned before.
Thank you. Guys, I believe that by this point we have gone over all of the opportunities, all of the news from the previous week. And I thank you all for tuning in to the weekly market recap. And we'll catch you once again next week, Friday at 11 UK time. In the meantime, I wish you a wonderful weekend. And to those of you who are watching on Monday in our newsletter, have a successful week trading. And we'll see you in the next one.